Hello, my name is Sean, and I decided to do a video today on, I think it's like 1 year, 1 month, 1 week, and 1 day, and some hours post-op with Dr. McGinn. And I haven't done a video in a really long time. I think 29 days post-op was the last video I did. It's hard to believe it's been over a year since I've done that video. It's gone by really fast, and also seems like it's been forever ago, so it's an interesting sensation. I'm over at a friend's house cat sitting out on the porch, so you may see some cats wander through. But for those of you who've not seen videos, or maybe have forgotten about me, or forgotten any details about my life, I started transitioning in 2008, April 2008, at the age of 37, and I had experienced trans feelings my entire life. I was aware of trans very early in my life, probably memory starting around 6, and dealt with that all through high school, puberty, very challenging college, married life, every phase of my life. It was always there. And finally decided to transition, and it's definitely been an amazing experience. So I wanted to check in about after surgery stuff. I wanted to check in about life in general stuff, and just trans thoughts that I've been having lately. When I decided to transition, I wanted to make sure, I didn't want to follow the playbook, and I wanted to consider each and every possible step as how it applies to me in my life. When I started transition, I had 2 goals, which are still the same 2 goals of my transition, and that is, 1, I wanted to have authentic relationships with those in my life, my friends, family, significant others, and the other was that I wanted to stop thinking about gender 100 times a day, or however many times I was doing that. And on both accounts, I have recently been reflecting that I've been partially successful, but not wholly successful, and certainly don't consider my transition to be complete at this point. As far as things that I decided to do, I had hormone replacement therapy starting in April of 2008. I started electrolysis around that same time. I had some laser and wasn't particularly happy with the results, and long term, I was worried about the work that I was doing in laser wasn't going to be effective. So I switched to electrolysis and started that in 2008. And that was pretty much transition for almost 2 years. I transitioned immediately as far as what I was wearing, but I didn't necessarily wear. I've always dressed pretty androgynously, even today. I still, favor t-shirts and jeans and sneakers and things like that. So, at work, I transitioned probably about 7 months later. No, it was probably about a year later. But all that went really well, and I decided to keep my name. So my name, SHAWN, was, I guess, not gender specific necessarily, and I decided to stay in the same area, maintain all my friendships. Sorry, cats! What's going on? I've been sitting out here for an hour. You've not been paying attention to me. All my friends, I didn't leave my area. I basically told all of my friends, and see, what else didn't I do? Oh, I was completely open about it. It wasn't like I was trying to be stealth. I just, people were aware that I was transitioning. Anyone had any questions about it, I participated in forums and panels and discussed it with other people, and just lots of being trans and accepting trans and being open to being trans. Met amazing trans people. The community here in Charlotte's not particularly large, and it's not particularly close, but I do have friends who I've met from the community that are close friends, and some of my best friends are trans. Had surgery with Dr. McGinn in 2010, March, and both my hormonal transition, my electrolysis transition, and my surgery transition, all of those were without complications. I didn't have complications at work. All of that went as planned. It was well planned. My employers had never dealt with it before, but they handled it as well as they possibly could. So all of those things went as well as I possibly could expect, and very grateful for all of those things. And so, about a year ago, I kind of felt like at the time that I was done physically doing things. I was still going to electrolysis, but that's down to like once a month for 30 minutes now, and even if I were to miss that, it wouldn't bother me at all. I can say about surgery that the change that was made by surgery was significantly positive. It was it provided me with a sense of myself which was much more than I expected, and I'm very happy to have the ability to have that surgery and have gotten through it successfully. So haven't had any other surgeries. I didn't have breast augmentation, and I did not have anything to do with my face. And one of the things that when I came out as trans, everyone was surprised. No one ever thought there was anything even remotely feminine about me, and not in the way that I looked, not in the things that I did. I made sure that no one knew, and that was part of the authentic relationships. I made sure that no one knew who I was, or I was very ashamed of me for a long time. So I wouldn't consider myself, I had a very masculine look, and I still think that I still went through a testosterone puberty. My face still developed a certain way, and the sun's starting to come down through these trees here. So at this point in my transition, I just assume everyone thinks that I'm trans, and that kind of makes it easier. The few times that someone says, "Hey, I had no idea," and I actually believe them, which is very rarely, but sometimes that'll happen, and that's really positive. And then the times where people say, "Oh yeah, I knew," it doesn't hurt my feelings, and it seems to be a good way to go about it. But it also is a very challenging way. I have found a number of things challenging in the dating environment, which may be perfectly normal. But I only have one button, it seems. I'm pretty stable as far as anything goes. There's nothing that really challenges me emotionally or any other way except for trans stuff. Like, I'm pretty solid, but I do have a big trans button, and it's very easy for me to feel insecure about that. So recently, I've been thinking a lot about transition and the fact that I don't necessarily think I've been successful. I still think about gender a lot. I have so many friends, almost exclusively all women. My life is full of just amazing people. I have a great best friend who I, would have given anything to have for so many years of my life. I had the opportunity to fall in love in this past year, and it was like nothing I had experienced before. I also had the opportunity to have my heart broken, and that was like nothing I experienced before. So I'm definitely experiencing life on a whole new level. I was always involved with roller derby as a volunteer, and I started skating basically last September. And I've been actually competing, bouting, and I've really gotten into that a lot. I do that 3 or 4 times a week. Really enjoy that, and enjoy the women that I do that with. It's just a great group of people. But when I look at whether I've been successful at transition or not, I haven't been able to have that relationship, that partnership that I had for 10 years with someone. And I do feel like it's, a lot of that's based upon being in Charlotte, being trans. The lesbian community here is it doesn't seem to be as open as I would like it to be. I can't blame a whole community or anything, but it just seems like there's very few lesbians who are open to dating trans women in this area. So that's been challenging. And then as far as gender goes, there was certainly some times where probably November or December of 2010, I didn't think about gender very much. I was in a really good place, and life was good, and I just didn't think about it. But as soon as things get challenging, and I'm trying to understand things that are happening in my life that I can't understand, but I don't have enough information to figure out. If there's ever a blank, it usually is filled with trans thoughts, like, oh, this is happening because I'm trans, or this is happening because I'm being identified as trans, or this is happening because I look different than other women, or this is happening from, so it's always around that area. And I, during those times of doubt, I acknowledge to myself that I've not done everything I can to be successful. I haven't followed the playbook purposely. I did not. But there's starting to be maybe some more wisdom in the standard playbook. And I do think about having facial surgery, and I do think about having breast augmentation surgery, and I do think about moving somewhere where no one knows, because everyone knows here. Everyone knows, because I've been so open about it. I don't think I could unwind that here. And I think about those things, and my initial reaction is to reject them. I don't think that's the way to go. So I wake up every morning with a really positive attitude, and I go out into the world, and there's certainly lots of signals that I'm being perceived as trans and being treated as trans, and that's not what I'm looking for. I had someone recently tell me that, oh, I had no idea. I just thought you were a really masculine woman. And, at the time, it didn't have great impact on me, because she was just saying, first of all, what she thought. Second of all, I believe it immediately, because statements like that are like very easily believable by me. But if someone says you're beautiful, or you look, completely feminine or female, they have to say that 100 times before I believe it. But if somebody says I'm a masculine-looking woman, well, I'm going to believe that. So, I think that's the nature of trans also. And, I think about masculine woman, and I think about, I call it the passport a lot, but if I was born genetically female, raised, experienced all of my experiences up to my life, up to this point in my life, as female, and no one ever questioning whether I was female or not, or questioning it in a way that was typical for people who are towards the middle of the gender spectrum or something like that. I think I'd be perfectly fine with exactly how I look and exactly where I am and exactly who I am. But it's like I don't have that passport. I'm asserting, I am fighting to express my gender in a way that I know is true, but the world doesn't exactly understand or accept, or that sort of realm of things. So I'm working hard to get to a place in my life where I don't have to fight that fight. I don't have to do it on a daily basis. And on the bad days, it's challenging. It's very challenging to continue to be in the middle, which is where I think I've ended up. I've not gotten to the other side. And sometimes I think about an analogy of like a street, like there's men on one side and there's women on the other side, and transition is crossing the street, and there's a lot of traffic, and you've got to keep moving fast, and you've got to pay attention, and you've got to be aware of what's coming up, and it's a challenging place to be. And that's basically where I am, dodging traffic, trying to get through life. And it'd be a lot easier on the sidewalk if I could get over there. I'm certainly not going back to that one. There's nothing that would ever inspire me to do that, but I can affect some change to continue over to the other side. So that's, the challenging thing for me lately is I could have more surgeries, and I could change my appearance more significantly just by making a few phone calls, and going through surgical procedures, which, I've already gone through. I think, a very significant one, and it has been nothing but a positive experience before, during, and after. So anyway, that's where I am right now. Post-op, as far as surgery goes, didn't have any complications. Everything looks great, and definitely recommend Dr. McGinn. Like, I guess other statistics about that or whatever. Dilations like once a week, and I've been fairly consistent with that, staying with that. Everything's fine there too. But anyway, questions? Any questions about anything about transition, or starting a discussion, or any of the points that I have? If you disagree with them, please, make comments, make videos. Part of the reason I do these videos is to keep a record of where I am, and what I'm thinking at a certain time, so I can go back and watch the videos. Part of it is to share ideas that I've not shared with people in my life, or it's share ideas that with people who don't have an emotional interest one way or another, maybe a subjective interest, or and different experiences that they can share with me, because I am always considering and thinking about things in general, and would love to have those types of conversations. So if you have information, or there's things that I say that you disagree with or something, let me know. I'd love to hear how you approach your transition and what you're thinking about. Anyway, I guess I can stop for now, but please send some messages. Thanks.